Steve Moore is joining us. Joe Concha is coming up. Joe Concha cannot hear me. So that's why I paused. And here is Steve Moore. And we're going to talk about inflation and skyrocketing debt. Steve
by the
Moore.
way, I just wish I were Joe Concha. he's one of my best friends. I love the guy.
So first, let me just get to this. The Federal Reserve is showing that Americans are dealing with the highest increase in household debt in 15 years. Yep. Joining me now, Distinguished Economic Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Steve Moore. And well, you can weigh in on Trump. Is he announcing tonight or not?
Boy, it sure sounds like it. You know, and I think people are very divided, as you just said, Dagan. I mean, a lot of Americans just love Donald Trump. I love what he did as president. But I think people are also concerned about, as you just said, Dagan, is he actually doing a favor to the Democrats? Is he the one the Democrats want to have run? And the answer to that probably is yes. Look, what I'm in favor of, and I think most Americans are in favor of who are conservative Republicans, is let's have it out. Let's have, you know, a whole array of candidates and see how this works out and pick the best man standing. But obviously, Donald Trump is going to come with a lot of support behind him. But there are also a lot of people who are adamantly opposed to him.
And Steve, I've always said this, and I repeat it over and over. In terms of President Trump, it's policy over personality. I'll talk about policy all day long.
Exactly.
And given the current state, so total household debt, this is from the New York Fed, hit $16.5 trillion in the third quarter of this year. And the year-over-year increase in credit card balances is the largest in more than 20 years. And so this is the Federal Reserve trying to fight the runaway inflation largely caused by reckless spending from the Democrats and Joe Biden and company.
Well, again, you're exactly right about that, Dagan. And here's what's going on. The math here is real simple. 8% increase in prices over the last year, 5% wage gains. So that means that people, as we've talked about, they've lost about $4,000 in their take-home pay after inflation. And so what people are trying to do now, Dagan, to maintain their standard of living is they're running up their credit cards because their wages and salaries won't pay their bills completely. And I find this to be quite troubling. The number that I saw is that for the first time, I think, ever, Americans now have $1 trillion of debt on their credit cards and other forms of consumer debt. You add that, by the way, Dagan, to the $4 trillion of debt that Biden has added to the national debt, we're becoming debt nation.
Right, and that's the doom loop, where the interest expense.
That's right.
It keeps going up and up and up, and then it just starts mushrooming because you have to borrow more just to pay the interest.
So I'll give you a number, if I may, Dagan, on that, because it's a really important point. If you look, every time the interest rates on the federal debt, because the United States government is the largest borrower in the world, right? And so when the interest rate on the 10-year or 20 or 30-year Treasury goes up by 1 percentage point, that adds another $1 trillion to the debt. So we're like a dog chasing its tail. The more we borrow, the more the interest rates go up. The more the interest rates go up, the more the borrowing goes up. It's a very vicious cycle.
Thank you for insulting dogs. As a dog lover.
Right.
Joe Biden, this just makes me insane. Joe Biden put out a statement on the producer price index today. So it's easing, wholesale inflation easing. But in the statement, it said, the bottom line is my economic plan is showing results. And we face global economic challenges from a position of strength. As I said last week, it will take time to get inflation back to normal levels, and we could see setbacks along the way, but we will keep at it. Keep at it, keep at it is the title of Paul Volcker's book, and that's a line that Jay Powell has been using. So Biden does have a history of lifting things, like from Neil Kinnock. Remember in the 80s? That's why he dropped out of the presidential race. But this is just hot or cold garbage. The plans out of this White House have done nothing but fuel inflation, and it makes the Fed's job that much harder.
So here's why I'm not as look, I hope the president's right. I hope inflation is going away because it's doing so much damage to our country. But I'm not quite as optimistic as he is. And he actually laid this out last week. He was saying, well, you know, all this massive spending that's already been authorized, you know, Dagan, a lot of that spending doesn't hit the economy until next year.
Right.
Now, that means when all that spending hits the economy, do you think that's going to make inflation better or worse? Obviously, it's going to make it worse. They should be the #1 job of this Republican House of Representatives, and thank God Nancy Pelosi is no longer to be Speaker, is to cut that excessive government spending. Because if
no, go ahead.
well, if they don't do it, you are going to have a return to 8, 9, 10% inflation because you're just deluging the economy with cheap money.
One of the most inflationary things going on right now is the continued extension of the moratorium on making student loan payments. I'm not talking about the student loan cancellation, which has been sidelined because of court rulings, but I'm talking about this has been going on for 33 months. And Maya McGinnis in the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget came out today and said the pause on student loan repayments is scheduled to end December 31st, and it needs to end then. And there are reports that Biden is considering an 8th extension of this repayment pause. These are stimulus checks, in essence, for rich people, for doctors and lawyers and investment bankers. And you want to know why these fancy restaurants are full of people? Because they're not paying their student loans.
You know, you're so right about that. And the only thing I would disagree with on that quote you played by Maya McGinnis is I would do it immediately. I mean, to let people know you are going to have to repay the debts that you took out. That's what an upstanding citizen does. The federal taxpayer isn't going to write that off for you, and it should start right now. I mean, you've had people who haven't been paying off these debts already for a year to a year and a half because of COVID. I mean, a lot of the debt repayments were suspended during COVID, Dagan. So that means, how long are we going to let people not pay these debts back?
33 months. They extended it in April when inflation was north of 8%, and then they extended it again in August. And now, and then they put out a statement about they're fighting inflation. That is, I'm not going to curse, Steve Moore. Thank you for being here.
Well, you know, by the way, what the biggest increase in it, one of the biggest increases in inflation over the last 10 years has been college tuition.
Yeah.
You think that if we forgive these loans, that's going to only make them increase their tuition, not lower the tuition?
Steve, thank you. Steve Moore.
Okay. Take care.